For starters, there are a few options available if you want to play Guitar Hero 1, 2, or 80s on PC. For all of these, we'll be using the PCSX2 emulator. PCSX2 runs great on most PCs. I'll also be showing you how to play these games with no audio delay and with as little visual delay as possible. Your first option is to play the base vanilla games. These work great, but they have some visual issues that can be fixed using a modded version of each game. You can obtain these through whichever means is most convenient to you. Then there's Guitar Hero 2 Deluxe, which is a mod of Guitar Hero 2 that combines GH2 and 80s, adds a bunch of quality of life improvements on top of it, and also fixes the aforementioned visual errors. You can find this at gh2dx.milohax.org. For GH1, there's GH1 Secret Edition, which adds the hidden songs back to the main set list and also fixes the visual errors. You can find this at milohax.org under Other Projects. As for prerequisites, all you'll need is a PC, the PS2 BIOS files, as well as whichever game you want to play. If you're looking for anything in particular, you can navigate this video using the chapters below. First, come to PCSX2's website and download the latest nightly build for your platform. Put the .7z file in an empty folder and extract the files using 7-zip. Then you can delete this original 7z file. When you run PCSX2 for the first time, it's going to ask you a couple things. You just hit next on this first tab. When you get to this screen, click on Open BIOS folder. This is where you're going to put your BIOS files. You're going to drag your BIOS into this folder, and then extract it using 7-zip. And then you can delete this original 7z file. Once you've obtained your BIOS and put it in the right folder, all you have to do is hit Refresh List, and select a BIOS for whichever region you're using. I'm using US. Now we're going to make a folder where we're going to put all our games. So hit Add, and you can just make a new folder here. Call it Games, and hit Select Folder. Click Yes here, and hit Next. For controller type, we'll set this up later, so we can just hit Next, and then hit Finish. Now we're going to make sure our games are in the right place. I'm going to be installing Guitar Hero 1, as well as Guitar Hero 2 Deluxe, and I have these in the Games folder in my PCSX2 folder, which we made earlier. We're going to set some settings to make sure we're playing optimally. Come here to Settings and go to Interface. Turn on Enable Discord Presence if you want your game to be shown on your Discord status. If you're playing one of the stock games, it actually shows the song you're playing. If you want to, you can enable Start Full Screen for convenience, and also hide cursor in full screen. Come down to the Emulation tab and enable Optimal Frame Pacing. Then go to Graphics, and then Rendering. Set the internal resolution to your monitor's resolution, or whatever your PC can handle. If you're not sure, you can play around with this and find out what works for you. Set anisotropic filtering to 16x. This doesn't have a huge impact to performance, but they do recommend having it off by default, so if that works better for you, then set that to off. Come to post-processing and enable FXAA. If you find your PC can't handle this, go ahead and turn this off. Now come down to audio, set backend to SDL. Under synchronization, hit this little cog, slide these all down, and enable use quick seek. For output latency, check minimal over here, and then set the buffer size to 25 milliseconds. You can set them by 1 using the arrow keys to get more precise. If you find this causes audio issues, set this to its default value, and come to achievements. I highly recommend you set this up because Guitar Hero 1 and 2 and 80s all support it. This is using retro achievements, which a lot of other emulators use. So to enable them, you come to enable achievements, and I recommend you also check enable hardcore mode, and then you can log in or create a retro achievements account. I already have one, but I'm not going to do it right here. Mapping your guitar is really easy. If you're using a Sandtroller or Xbox 360 guitar, all you gotta do, go to Documents, PCSX2, Input Profiles, and download this XInput guitar.ini and put it in here. This will automatically make it so if you plug in 2 Sandtroller or Xbox 360 guitars, or one or the other, it'll automatically be mapped and working at game. If you're not using a Sandtroller or Xbox 360 guitar, go to Settings, Controllers, then click on New Profile, name whatever you want, and then select No. Come to Controller Port 1, set it to Guitar, and then you can map your guitar accordingly. Once you're done, just hit Close, and now you're good to go. Before we start running the game, there's going to be a little extra tinkering we need to do. For GH1, right-click and go to Properties. Set Input Profile to what you have your guitar mapped to. And by default, GH1 does not have widescreen, but most people prefer playing in widescreen, so if you want to do that, go to Patches and enable widescreen 16:9. Then graphics, set aspect ratio to widescreen 16:9, and FMV aspect ratio override to auto standard. Then we can close. For Guitar Hero 2 or 80s or 2 Deluxe, right click and go to Properties. Set your input profile to whichever you're using, and then come to Graphics. Set aspect ratio to widescreen 16:9, and FMV aspect ratio override to auto standard. And just close it. Now we should be ready to go. Just double click to open it. Just a little FYI, Guitar Hero 2 Deluxe opens with a launcher like this, with a bunch of different versions of GH2 Deluxe. GH2 Deluxe is only GH2, 80s Deluxe is only 80s, Mega Deluxe is 80s and 2 combined, and these three are pretty much the only ones they're going to use. And when you pick one, you're going to press blue on the guitar, not green. Blue to select it, and then blue again here. And once you get in Guitar Hero 2, go to Options, Video Settings, and enable widescreen display. And back out to make sure it saves. In Guitar Hero 2 Deluxe, to change your hyperspeed, go to the set list and press the Select button twice. Now I'm going to show you how to calibrate these games. GH1 did not come with calibration at all, and Guitar Hero 2 only has video calibration, meaning the only option to calibrate is to move the hit window up and down. But there's a modern solution to that called Resyncinator. Created by JNAC, it lets you repack an entire ISO with all the audio offsets pushed forward or back depending on how much audio lag you need. This makes the game way more playable, and I highly recommend doing it. So I'm going to show you how to do it. First, you're going to want to install Python. Click this big yellow button right here. On the Python installer, make sure you check add python.exe to path, and then click install now. And close the installer once it's finished. Then download Resyncinator. Place it in a folder, and then extract it using 7-zip. And then delete the original 7z file. Now you should see something like this. Now before we actually do anything with Resyncinator, we're going to open the game once. Once we're in GH2 or GH80s, go to Options, Video Settings, and then Calibrate Lag. First, you're going to click Calibrate. Click your strum bar down at the exact same time the beeps play. If you find you're a little bit off, just run it again until you can confirm that every single one of your clicks landed on the exact same time as the beep. If you can't land them all at the exact same time, then just keep doing it until you do. If it helps, look away from your screen and only play along to the audio. So my result was 84 milliseconds. Obviously yours is going to be different. Now you're going to want to write this number down. Whatever your case may be, just make sure you have this number in mind. Then you're going to do it again, but mute your audio, take off your headphones, do whatever you need to do so you cannot hear the game. And then click the strum bar down as soon as the eyeball closes. So my result here is 21. I'm going to write this number down as well. And then back out to let that save. Then just close PCSX2. Now we're going to get whichever game you want to adjust the offset for. This works with the Guitar Hero 1, Guitar Hero 2, Guitar Hero 80s, and Guitar Hero 2 Deluxe. I'm going to do this with Guitar Hero 2 Deluxe. So all we have to do is drag this out and into the main folder in Resyncinator. And then run resyncinator.py. This is where you get a calculator. So first you're going to put in the first offset you got, which was when you were playing along to the beep, which for me it was 84. And then subtract it by the offset you got for when you were playing when the eyeball was closed, which for me it was 21. And then subtract 17 from all that, which is around 1 frame in NTSC. And then hit enter. 46. So for my delay, I'm going to set it to -46. And then hit enter. Right now what it's doing is extracting all your files and then pushing back the audio for every single song in the game one by one. This will take a long time, so please be patient. Once it's done, it'll ask if you want to create an ISO now. Type Y and then enter. Image burn will open up and it'll create your ISO. Alright, now it's done. Press any key to close it. And now in the Resyncinator folder, you'll see your new ISO file, as well as a backup of your original ISO in main processed original ISOs. So you can go ahead and move this back into your PCSX2 games folder. Now if the game you processed was Guitar Hero 2 Deluxe, I recommend changing this name back to Guitar Hero 2 Deluxe 2.0. If you did it with Guitar Hero 1, stock Guitar Hero 2, or stock Guitar Hero 80s, you won't have to do that because it will still show up as the original game name in the game list. But since Guitar Hero 2 Deluxe is not official, it won't show up with an actual name in the game list, it'll just be the ISO name. So now once you're back in PCSX2, it's ready to play. Now if you're used to only playing at high frame rates and you want to play at a frame rate higher than 60, you can do that, I just don't recommend it. If you play at anything higher than 60 frames per second, the game will crash when loading the intro movie. But you can get around that by spamming green as soon as the game boots up. But like, are you really going to do that every time? So to do this, make sure PCSX2 is completely closed, and then go to Documents, PCSX2, Game Settings, and then find the ID for whichever game you're using. I'll have them on screen right now. Open the INI file in your text editor of choice, and under mucore/gs, put in frame rate NTSC equals, and then whatever frame rate you want to run the game at, and then save it. If you don't see mucore/gs, just type it in exactly like this, then we can close this file and reopen PCSX2. Right click on the game we just edited, and then go to Properties. Then under Achievements, go in here and disable hardcore mode. It should have nothing in the box, and not this translucent thing, not this check mark. It should have nothing in the box like that. And then you boot the game up and it'll be running at whatever frame rate you had set.